Welcome to Let's Talk About Love's Stories from Everywhere. I'm your host, Jill Ferguson, and today I have a very special guest with me, somebody I've known for years and years, Lawrence Pech. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Jill?
I'm good. So glad you were able to join me from Sonoma, California.
So
Right?
happy to be invited. Thank you.
Thanks. So, like I said, I've known you for years, and one of the things that struck me about you that I noticed that you wrote a few years ago on Facebook was how most of the major things in your life that you feared have come to pass for you,
Yeah.
and they've given you a sense of resilience, right, to realize that you can face this thing and overcome. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, what prompted you to write that Facebook post in the first place, and what's your life been like?
Again, thank you for having me. So the first event that happened was when I was 11 years old. My father died from cancer, and he had been sick for 9 years up to that point, in and out of
Oh,
hospitals. And
wow.
we didn't really know that it was not normal, other than me to juxtapose my situation with my childhood friends. So when that happened, I mean, it was devastating, and it did inform the rest of my life,
Yeah.
but it gave me a very early introduction to appreciate the here and now and appreciate the people around you while they're here.
What a beautiful lesson to take out of that. I mean,
Well,
serious, through trauma, right? Childhood trauma.
and expounding upon that, so my dad was a supervisor for the public schools in Denver, and my mom a music teacher in the public schools.
Okay.
And my dad started the busing program in Denver. He was very into integration, and the only time I ever saw him cry was when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. So, fast forward, this woman, a mother of a child in Denver, the day before his death, had filed suit against him personally because of the busing program and wanted her son taken out of that school. And he was on early cobalt treatments from chemotherapy, and so one of the chambers of his heart was twice the size of the other. He came home. My twin brother and I, as per siblings, were having an argument about Tang,
Yeah.
about who could get more.
Mhm.
And at a certain point, he had it. He pushed us aside. The Tang fell to the floor. It shattered. It was a big dramatic moment in the kitchen, and we were sent away. Later that night, our dad took each one of us at a time onto his lap and said, "You know how much I love you and I care about you." And I really was pouting, and I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And then the next day, he's gone.
Wow.
And so I do have maybe an overabundance of, when I'm leaving somewhere or someone, and it's even just very informal, I will say, "Goodbye, I love you, I can't wait to see you again." It's a little over the top, and I know that that's where that comes
Yeah.
from. So just to continue, when I was 30, so I danced with American Ballet Theater for 7 years, and then I moved to San Francisco in hopes of avoiding the AIDS crisis. It was kind of like from the fire to the frying pan.
Yeah.
Um, my back was killing me. I had just been promoted to principal dancer, a lifelong goal of all dancers.
Yeah.
And 4 months later, they found a cancerous tumor on my spine that ate away my vertebra. And they also diagnosed me. They said it's age related, and you maybe have 6 weeks to 6 months. And so I remember being in my hospital bed thinking, well, dang it. I
Yeah.
mean, thank God I made it. At least I made it. I could put that on my resume. But what really brings me joy? What will keep me going? And I remembered my music from when I was little. I started piano when I was 6. I studied classically for 10 years. I did a lot of singing. I wanted to go on Broadway, hence my ballet career.
Mhm.
So I thought, I'll go back and develop my music. So I got a full scholarship to the San Francisco Conservatory of Music.
Mhm.
And even to today, the kids that I teach, I've always wanted to be a dad, but I haven't been yet.
Yeah.
More on that later. Um, I tell my kids, you may think that your one goal is to become a principal dancer, and that's fantastic. I support you all the way in that. But
Yeah.
know that life is going to take you where it wants, not specifically where you want to go. And you may not understand the reason for things at the moment, but embrace them.
Mhm.
Because for 25 years, I was a ballet master resident choreographer at San Francisco Opera. I didn't really like opera. And I thought it was kind of, I would go through the motions of this interview with Lotfi Mansour, the artistic director of San Francisco Opera at the time. And I told him my experiences, etc. And he made some reference calls, and I ended up getting the job. And I thought, well, that's kind of funny because I don't even like opera. But since, of course, I learned to love the art form, and maybe later on I can talk to you about my idea of God,
Okay.
and it's emblematic of the opera. But so there was my dad's death, my diagnosis with cancer and AIDS at 30, going to music school. I lost my home to the fires in 2017 in Sonoma.
Yeah.
This was another huge fear of mine. Well, I went through it and I've rebuilt. It took 6 years the second time, but it's the original home blueprint. My original contractor had the blueprints in his attic. And he was the same contractor, but a completely different man the second time. That was he ended up stopping work. He had threatened to leave the job site. I was trying to move my mom in. She was in assisted care. I moved her out from Colorado. I was taking care of her.
She was in her 90s at the time, right?
She was 95 when
Yeah.
she moved out of Colorado.
Yeah.
And she passed away 2 years ago at 99 and a half.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, well, you made it.
Yeah.
All of these things have made me realize that we have the option to keep going or throw in the towel.
Yeah.
And if I could also say, a very important moment for me while I was taking care of my mom. So my sister and brother, who live in Colorado, said, "Oh, why don't you move out to California where the altitude is lower and Blair can take care of you?" So what are you supposed to say?
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, great. Come on out." I found a place for her near me in assisted care. I kind of joke that she outlived her battery.
Yeah.
Her last 2 years were, she had outlived her health insurance, her life insurance.
Wow.
So her assisted care was $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I had completely depleted all of my savings, all of my checking. I had to liquidate my retirement fund, $72,000 in taxes, all of that.
Yeah.
I tried finding daily care for her, and at the last minute they would call and say they can't make it. And Jill, taking care of my mom at the end of her years was both the most rewarding and the most difficult thing I've ever done.
Wow.
So I flew my twin brother out from Denver. That's a whole other chapter. To help me move my mom from assisted care into my home. And 2 hours before we had to move her out of assisted care, they gave me an occupancy license for my home, which means that if I didn't have that, nobody could live here. I would have had to hide her under the if people came to check out the house. So I moved her in. I had my brother out. We were kind of cohabitating, and my mom was in the living room. I was absolutely destitute. I was seeing a therapist at this time, actually a lesbian from LA.
Mhm.
We have one thing in common. And, she was very helpful, but she said, how are you able, given all these things that have happened to you, how are you able to keep going? And I told her I was actually on the edge of not wanting to continue. Ironically, if it wasn't for me having to take care of my mom, I don't think I would have been here.
Wow.
It was that bad. Even after all that I've been through, I didn't see an end. The phone rang. I was on the phone with my landscape contractor because I'd paid for this retaining wall for my new gardens that started cracking, and I was talking to him about trying to fix that. But in lieu of that, could we transfer the money over to a north porch that I have to have built at a final? So at that moment, a paralegal from a lawyer's company that was doing a class action lawsuit against Pacific Gas and Electric, which caused my fire, called to tell me that I had received this huge amount of funds. And it
Oh,
was,
wow. You must have been like uh, screaming for joy.
no, I asked him to repeat the figure.
Yeah.
Said, I'll call you back. I came into the living room, I sat down at the table, and I burst into tears.
Yeah.
I was sobbing.
Yeah.
And my mom was looking at me like, Lair, what's wrong? I thought I should maybe turn off the tears and just tell her what's going on.
Yeah.
And so we laughed about it. It was just incredible that happened.
Well, it's amazing how we're always provided for, even if we're not feeling like we're going to be.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And all of these things I've realized, if you just sit,
Yeah.
you don't have to react. You don't have to act upon anything. I'd like to say that the best comment is no comment at all. Sometimes that's quite warranted.
Yeah.
It's taken me a long time to learn that. And just to segue a little bit into my spiritual practice,
Yeah.
we talked about this earlier. I wake up before sunrise. I get up, I turn on the coffee, most important thing.
Oh, yeah.
That the night before.
Mhm.
And then I do my meditation, my breathing exercises, I do tapping exercises, and then I have a gratitude list and a prayer list, and then I get on with my day. And it has been so beneficial to me. It's kind of like I give allowance to myself to give me time before
Yeah.
I take care of everything else.
Yeah. And yeah, there's a yoga teacher where I study that says that if you don't fill your own cup first, you can't give to anybody else.
Right. I use the analogy of an airplane going down.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
I think that it's counterintuitive. They say give your child the oxygen first and then you, and I'm thinking, well, no, but then I won't be able
Yeah.
to, when in fact,
It's put on your
you
own
don't do
oxygen mask
that,
first.
they do.
Yeah.
And if
Mhm.
you don't take care of yourself, you can't
Yep.
take care of.
Yep. So explain your opera and God analogy, since we're into
Okay.
spiritual practice right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I don't believe in organized religion, but I'm very spiritual. I think religion was created basically for land grabs and domination.
Yeah.
That doesn't have anything to do with spirituality or higher power or anything above our domesticity.
Yeah.
So someone asked me one time, do I believe in God? And I said yes. And they said, well, what does that look like to you? And I actually said, can I get back to you on that? And I came up with this formulation that I use the opera as my sense of God. So 400 years ago, someone had in their head this music, and we had the ability to create a notational system to write down this music. And it used to be squid ink and quills and papyrus and all of these things that we and our brain, our God-given brain, were able to manufacture to forward our civilization. So this composer, either Hildegard von Bingen or Bach or whomever, wrote down this stuff that 400 years later, a violinist, and then there's the whole thing about the violin and the creation and the evolving of the violin, to be able to play what was in their head from 400 plus years ago. That's only the violin. Then there's the orchestra, the violin, the viola, the cello, the double bass, the string section. There's the brass section.
And we're only in Western music.
Exactly. I mean, the guitar, the lute,
Yeah.
And maybe if we have time, I'd like to talk about this musical project that I'm working on that is non-Western based musically.
Mhm.
So then there's the whole orchestra, and that they play as one organism. And then there's the costumes and the textile and the buttons and the fastening and the velour. I mean, all the stuff that takes to make the costumes. And then the harnessing of electricity and the gobos and the scenery and the architecture, because opera is what I understand plural for opus. So it's a lot of individual works coming together.
Mhm.
That's just my idea of God. That we're given this ability to create. Of course, right now we're a little bit of chaotic times in deconstruction, but I have great faith and hope that the shit will eventually be righted. I have to hang on to that. In my morning practice, I also read the New York Times, which may not be very healthy for me, but I love being informed. I also do feel like this time we're in right now is so historic.
Yes.
I don't want to be on the sidelines.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing what's going on.
Mhm.
So that's my idea of God.
That's beautiful. Well, and that's an accessible version of God, right? As opposed to somebody having to go through a priest or whatever to access God.
Right. Sit in a little box and give a confessional, and then everything's given. I don't want to speak badly of any organized religion. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also just like the rebuilding of my home has been an incredible challenge and a great gift. In my fire, so for those listening and watching, Jill was my professor at the first Conservatory of Music in San Francisco as my creative writing teacher. And she seemed to like my writings. And I think it's because I wrote daily journals. I had done a lot of writing. So in my home fire, I lost 30 years of journals. I lost all of my choreographic records, all of my videotapes, all of my musical compositions. I mean, tabula rasa. And it made me realize that it doesn't really matter. One reason I've always wanted to have kids is maybe to have a legacy of myself, but that is no guarantee that they're going to be the kid I wanted them to be and to take care of all of that.
And I feel like there needs to be a little more of a reason to have children than just a legacy, right? It's like I've heard other people say, well, I want kids so that I'll have somebody to take care of me when I'm older. And it's like, yeah, good luck with that.
Exactly. Yeah. And my twin brother has 3 beautiful kids, and they're all estranged from him.
Oh.
They don't call him on Father's Day. It breaks my heart.
Oh, wow.
And it makes me realize, like,
no guarantees in life with anything, right?
Guarantee. Yeah.
Not with your family living, your parents living, not with your house not, being gone in a fire, not with getting a major illness. There's no guarantees with anything.
No. And it's made me realize just sitting outside in my gardens or by the ocean. Oh, another thing I have started doing daily after I finish my morning practice, there's a reservoir near me that is a very up and down trail and around this beautiful reservoir. And it takes about an hour. And then I drive out to the ocean and I have a run on the beach.
Oh, nice.
What an incredible life.
Yeah.
And it's these moments that make me realize why I've gone through everything I've gone through is to just be at that place.
Yeah.
and to be able to sit and be quiet. And my new partner, that's maybe for another show or not, is from American Samoa. And he loves the quiet and the peace. And this is one of the things that so attracted me to him, is that it's so simple. You know, I think it's ironic that the older we get, the more we appreciate. And if it were the Benjamin Button kind of life that we moved backwards, we would have appreciated early on, and then we would have taken that through our life with us. And unfortunately, some people never get to the point where I am now. It's
That's
kind of
true.
it's a joke, really. It's one of those, oh, now I get it.
Can we pause 1 second just because
Sure.
the dogs are going crazy, and I'll edit that out. But
Okay.
oh, I think my groceries arrived. I think that's it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's why they're barking. Okay. So let's pick up. You just talked about your partners from American Samoa and that you're doing a really cool project right now.
Oh, yes. His mom comes from a very large family in American Samoa, and she lives right on the edge of a bay, right around the corner from the ocean. And my partner Francis has property next to her. And we were there a couple of weeks ago, and we got out the tape measure and started measuring the property. And I started drawing up home designs, and we may build a home in American Samoa.
Oh, beautiful.
Just in the nick of time.
Yeah. But you're also, in addition to that, right, you're also doing a non-Western musical composition.
Oh, that project.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got my master's from the Conservatory of Music a couple of weeks ago. I graduated.
Congratulations. Yay. That's what the congratulations behind you is for too?
Oh, actually, no, that's for Francis getting a job promotion.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good for him. Okay. Yeah.
My master's thesis was a 40-minute long song cycle of the Civil War. 7 movements for soprano, mezzo, tenor, baritone soloists, and full chorus.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, really rewarding. And my tenor, who is going to be a superstar someday, wants me to write more for him. So he's half Indian and half Fijian. And I've decided my next song cycle is going to be about the colonization of the South Pacific. A very light topic.
Oh, yeah, just a little bit.
And within that, you and I talked about this earlier, I do not want to be the ugly American white haole coming to throw myself onto their civilizations. And so I'm doing a lot of research. I'm starting to research the ancient musics of the different islands. And I think the first movement is probably just going to be drumming. And I want to choose probably 5 different islands that really experienced colonization, like Tahiti and the French. I mean, it's an incredible topic for me. And he will be singing in their original dialect. I also have an idea that Francis, whose uncle was governor of American Samoa, I want to meet with him and talk to the cultural liaisons and maybe have the world premiere there in American Samoa.
Oh, that would be beautiful. So beautiful. And it reminds me of the opposite of what is if you've been to Oahu, up towards the north shore of Oahu, the Mormon church has it's basically like a Mormon Disneyland, let's call it, where it's a version of It's a Small World. But it's all of the places that Mormons have set up missions.
Oh, so it's a large world.
Yeah, and they've hired the students who go to BYU Oahu that are native from those areas to work in this amusement park.
Oh,
And there's little, there's a Fijian hut and one from French Polynesia and all this stuff, and it literally made me sick to my stomach to
yeah.
go in there.
Oh,
Um, because
it's
it felt so,
appropriation. Yeah,
yeah, and it felt so much like look at how we've conquered these cultures. That's how it felt to me.
yeah, yeah.
Instead of being like, have we as a society learned from indigenous peoples?
Oh,
Um,
and that's so timely because of the DEI programs being erased.
yeah,
All of these, you know, African American, LGBTQ people being
yeah,
erased from the history.
yeah,
This is another reason, a big motivation for my doing the Civil War song cycle is to say what really happened.
yeah.
The first song of the cycle is called The Witnesses. Um, and it's about the slave ships that sunk and the bodies in chains in the sand. I mean,
Yeah.
so it went from there. And to tell the story of these beautiful islands, Oahu is the perfect example. I call it Las Vegas on the sand.
Oh yeah, especially Waikiki Beach.
Like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, just a quick aside, when Francis and I were in Hawaii over New Year's,
Uh-huh.
we were on the Big Island and we went to this incredible outlook of an ancient village and a shrine. It's a very sacred area.
Hmm.
And this white woman and her daughter were rolling down the hill and laughing and taking selfies.
Oh
And
no.
I wanted to go up to the mother and daughter and just say, you know, this is a really sacred place.
Yeah.
You could save that for somewhere else. I
Yeah.
didn't engage. Francis was very thankful. His culture was very
Yeah.
non-aggressive, you know.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of the Karens of the world, and uh,
Yeah.
I won't. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. And yep, I'm with you on that.
And
Um,
I love the people saying, you know, why don't you speak English if you're here? Well, no. Why don't we speak Navajo?
yeah. Or
And
today, yeah, any of the indigenous languages, because they were certainly spoken here first.
yeah,
Yeah. I have a new project I'm working on, and when it was presented to me from the clients, um, and it's a course creation project. But the first slide in the course creation that they sent me that they had been using in person trainings was to thank whoever's land they were standing on.
oh,
And I find that such a powerful practice for us to
yeah,
acknowledge that it's not about us, right? There's a long lineage of people and spaces and things that have been on this land wherever we are before
yeah,
we were,
absolutely.
and
Yep.
so much ancestral wisdom that we could learn and tap into that people choose not to.
Well, and when it's erased from the textbooks,
Yeah.
the kids don't know any different. You
No.
know, and this idea that we're erasing it because we don't want them to feel uncomfortable. Well, boo hoo. Talk about discomfort in the slave ship.
Well,
Let's talk
yeah.
about all of that. You don't want to embarrass them. First of all, they didn't do it personally. The parents who feel that way need to understand that this really happened. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
preaching to the choir, but it's another motivation for American Samoa.
Yeah. Well, and the fact of the matter is that everything in life is going to make somebody uncomfortable anyway. And there's plenty of kids that are on social media that it just kills. It's really destroying parts of them, including their mental health and everything else. So it's
Yeah,
like, would you rather them have fake things that are destroying they're, making them feel uncomfortable, or would you rather them know the truth about history and have that be the thing that makes them feel uncomfortable? It doesn't seem like we're making wise choices as a society.
Right, and I'm such a history buff. It's exciting to know what happened. And I feel like what you just said, if these kids were presented actual history on social media, it might pique their interests to look into things,
Yeah.
to question things. And isn't that the role of a parent, is to have the child grow up being curious and wanting to know, wanting to learn, and wanting to have challenges?
Mhm.
Uh,
There was a guitarist at the conservatory once that came by my office early one morning, and he said to me, he had been in a number of my literature classes, and he popped in his head in the door, and he's like, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you, I was in Whole Foods yesterday." And he said, and I was standing there looking at two products, trying to figure out which one of the two products I should buy. And all of a sudden, it just smacked right into me that that's what you're teaching us in your courses. It isn't literature per se, it's critical thinking.
right.
And he's like, and I didn't realize that before. Thank you. And I
Good
was just
job.
like, yeah, oh, and it was just so funny because it's like, yeah, that I find that the role of education, of any facet of education, whether you're teaching math or science or history or Western civilizations or literature, should be to make people think.
Exactly.
And if we're not doing that, we're not doing our jobs
Right.
as educators. We're not doing our jobs as educated human beings if we're choosing not to think about things.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I come from a long line of teachers, both my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, my aunts and uncles, all educators. And it breaks my heart when I sit in the back of the classroom at the conservatory. Everyone has their laptops open, pretending like they're paying
Oh
attention,
yeah.
and I'm shopping, playing Wordle. And
Yeah.
at the end of the year, after everyone left, I told one of my professors what I'd
Yeah.
been witnessing, and he said, "I know."
Yeah.
I mean, this is another thing. These kids they're in one of the best music schools in the United States with
Yeah.
the best professors, spending their energy trying to instill in them some sense of wanting to learn, and
Mhm.
they're squiring away this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of those people all over in education programs everywhere, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what other kinds of projects are you working on right now?
Oh,
Anything else?
you probably can't see it there. I stacked up that's 5 canvases over
Yeah, I
there.
can see the canvases. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a big ocean scene of Francis's mother's beach
Oh,
to
nice.
send to her.
Did you take a photo of it and then you're doing it from
Well, there
a
were
photo?
many photos and
Mhm.
videos, and I've kind of
Yeah.
used that as a
Starting point.
guideline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've
Oil or
it's
acrylics or
watercolor.
what media? Oh, nice.
And
Okay.
during COVID, when I realized that I was going to be at home a lot,
Mhm.
I started this project of putting 3 to 5 panels together and creating one scene.
Mhm.
And I have about 13 of those series, and it's been great fun.
Well, there's one behind your head. Is it yours or is it somebody else's that there's
Oh no,
panels?
that's someone else's.
Okay. Yeah.
But so that's another project I'm working on. And then
Nice.
another project I'm going to be starting with Professor Ferguson in writing my memoirs.
Yeah. And
And
so, in one other piece of your memoir, right? At least this was your plan back in the day. I don't know if it still is, but you had said that once you passed, you wanted to be cremated and Pikes Peak, right? So that you
oh,
could go both directions, to the
well,
east and the
actually,
west,
Loveland
where you've
Pass.
lived. No.
But what a great memory you have.
Oh,
That was decades ago.
yes,
Um, because Loveland Pass was a
that's right. It was
pass
Loveland
that
Pass.
my
Yeah.
family traveled over a lot. And then even after the Eisenhower Tunnel was built, we would go up there. It's on the Continental Divide.
Mhm.
So I went to Ash, now that I live in California, but I'm from Denver. I want my ashes spread on the top of Loveland Pass, so half of my ashes go to Denver and the other half to California.
Well, and they head off towards New York too, which is where you also live, right? They go east.
Yeah.
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 Do you still
And
want that?
well, now American Samoa comes into play.
Yeah.
But also my sister lost her husband about a year and a half ago, and yesterday was his birthday, and she spread his ashes up at a waterfall near Aspen where they spent a lot of time.
Mhm.
I In my spiritual practice, I feel like this is our one go around. This is the only chance we have, and when we're gone, who knows? And I know these rituals are for the people left behind.
Yeah.
So I guess really now I'm thinking about, with Francis and my sister, asking them what they want to do with my ashes. I mean,
Okay.
I had my sister's husband, I had some ashes of his that I said I would do something with yesterday, and I spread them under my rose bushes.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's a little, I don't know. I think it's a little, to my mind, superfluous.
Yeah.
It's just a ritual for those who are
Mhm.
left behind, not for the spirit that has moved on.
Yeah. Hmm.
I
I can
remember
understand.
reading a book, The Lovely Bones.
Oh, what a, yeah.
Yeah,
What a
devastating.
powerful book.
Yeah, but there was one scene that really stuck with me, is that the girl who was now in heaven was watching her little brother looking in the mirror, trying to talk to her.
Hmm.
And, I was thinking we all have these different ideas about the afterlife.
Yeah.
And in an odd, kind of macabre way, I'm looking forward to finding out what happens.
Nice.
Not before my time, but this is something too I'm learning about different cultures, American Samoa, etc. The American Samoa families have their grandparents and great grandparents buried in their front lawns.
Hmm.
They're right there in front of their homes. They're not in some cemetery or mausoleum, or every year you go and put some plastic flowers on. They're there at the time. And it's just so interesting to learn about how different people treat death.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious. I think we all are,
Mhm.
but I don't fear death at all. Even with
Yeah.
my cancer and my AIDS and the fire and everything. I mean, I just got out of the home fire. I gathered some things, threw it in the car, and my neighbor said they saw me drive down the driveway and it overtook the house.
Wow. That was really close.
Yeah.
And
And it was 3,000 degrees. It melted everything.
Wow.
Glass and metal. And anyway, suffice to say, all of this I'm living now is frosting.
Hmm.
You know?
Well, it's amazing to go through a life where you understand that how much of the things that you've loved, you've lost, and
Mhm.
then that you've been able to rebuild, and then what that really teaches what really matters to you, right?
Yeah. And as I was saying, I wished I'd learned this a long time ago, but that was not the plan.
Yeah.
You know? And then the other side of this coin is that I don't want to sound preachy
Mhm.
about my life experiences. It just is what is, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm very grateful for everything that has happened in my life.
Yeah.
Everything. Especially somehow the bad. I learned more from those things
Yeah.
than successes. My successes, I've been very suspicious of, because I'm thinking, well, if this is the pinnacle, that means there's nowhere to go but down, you know?
Oh, as opposed to setting another goal that's higher than that one? No?
Well, you just took the wind out of my sails. No, I still need new projects.
Yeah, because I think that you have a love of creation, right? And the creative process, so that you're going to continue to do that as long as you have days and breath on the earth.
Well, and that's why I went back to music school, is to actually learn the software to achieve what's in my head in a
Okay.
more facile time.
Yeah.
And while doing the painting, I mean, I have this big need to always be creative.
Mhm.
Writing a book,
Yeah.
cooking, gardening. I tell my ballet students,
Yeah.
creativity is this big pie,
Yeah.
and each slice, music, literature, dance, painting, visual arts, architecture, gardening, cooking, whatever you're doing that is creative or that you're creating, that you're
Mhm.
making. Sometimes from nothing, but oftentimes from borrowed materials
Yeah.
that you're making something new is, to me, what's so gratifying about the human experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite quote about love?
Oh, I do. It's maybe a little cheesy.
That's okay.
And there were so many to choose from, of course. I couldn't one Shakespearean, but um, so this is probably from my musical theater background.
Uh-huh.
Love in your heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love until you give it away.
Lovely.
That's
Nice.
but because I mean, the bell is still a bell, even if it's not ringing. So I don't get the first part of that. But we just can't hold in and be selfish about love.
Yeah.
We have to express it, and especially to those near us that I learned from my dad's death.
Yeah.
Tell them when you can that you love them. It's so simple. And as especially a white male in America, I was taught that that's weakness.
Yeah.
Don't cry, don't show love, be very hardened and stern. And nope, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because you may not have that chance again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if any of our viewers want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh,
Are you on LinkedIn or you prefer
I am
emails?
very much. I mean, emails are fine.
Okay. You want to give
Do
your
I?
email address or do you have a website?
Not yet. I'm working
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
But my email's fine.
Okay.
I don't want to give out my phone number quite
No.
yet.
Yeah. So what's your email address?
LPECH26. That's my IQ at earthlink.net.
Nice. Nice humor.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other words of wisdom or things you want to mention?
I'm just looking forward to moving forward with this book and the painting and music and the building. And I
Yeah.
am so grateful for my life.
Yeah.
And so grateful that we reconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about that too. And I think as I said it to you a week or two ago, you're somebody that I just have so admired over the years. And
Right.
and I should say one last thing that one of my most memorable Larry stories is when you did your senior year composition. What do you?
My recital.
Yeah, your recital. I was wondering if to call it a recital was right, and you came out in your rap gear and did that song with that big chain, and it blew the audience away.
Well, and
Blew them away.
I created that because there was going to be a long time from switching from small chamber ensemble to full symphonic setup.
Yeah.
And it started out very simple. Is the catchphrase was because I can't find the damn remote.
Mm-hmm.
And it started out, I can't get up. I can't stop drinking, but I could if I could find it. I mean, it became very dark.
Yes. But that performance of that was so fun. And your recital was on the longer side, I remember.
It was a dual recital, yeah.
And it was just incredible when you came out there because that was so unexpected from people thinking like, okay, this is, a slightly older guy than the traditional student age and to come out doing that.
That's
you
so
know,
funny for that.
former ballet dancer. Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just, to me, it kind of encompassed your willingness to stretch beyond boundaries and show all kinds of creativity in any different way you felt like
And I
it.
started writing that rap in your class.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
Yep.
Maybe that's why you're so partial to it.
I don't know. It was just unexpected and it was fun. And, you sit through so many recitals and they're all wonderful, but sometimes they're not very fun. So,
Oh, I agree.
yeah. But thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm flattered to have big asked. Thank you.
Thank you.